Yeah, I'm not really buying that either. Sorry, Honda. Neo Sports Cafe is a nice name to tick some marketing boxes. In reality, the CB650R is a thoroughly modern bike with a round headlight. Now, that's not a bad thing at all. So casting all of those marketing pretenses to one side, all I want to do from this review is give you an idea of what this bike is like to ride and what it's like to live with day to day. I'm actually a fan of the styling of this bike. For a 650, Honda have given it quite a purposeful, muscular, stocky appearance. Let's start by taking a look at what powers this machine. At the heart of this bike sits the 649cc 16-valve dual overhead cam inline 4 motor, which is shared with the CBR650R. It produces 93 brake horsepower at a heady 12,000 RPM, but the torque comes in much lower than that. It pulls in quite nicely from below 3,000 and it keeps going right up to about 8,500 RPM, where it hits its peak of 47 pound-foot. But they're just spec sheet numbers and they generally don't really give you a true representation of what a bike is like to ride. And I have to say, this CB650R is an absolute blast. Lots of fun. That motor seems to have power on tap wherever you need it. It's such a free revving motor, and using that whole rev range soon becomes very, very addictive. And the shower suspension does a really good job as well. It's a pretty basic setup. You've got a non-adjustable front fork and the rear shock is only available with preload adjustment. Having said that, Honda seem to have got this dialed in just right. In the time I had the bike, I rode it on as many different road surfaces as I could. Everything from the mud and dirt encrusted country lanes that you see here to A roads and even motorways. And the only time that the suspension started to become a little bit unsettled was when the road surface became broken up or quite rough. So I have to say, I was really impressed with this as an all-round bike. They've done a fantastic job in getting a no-nonsense, no-mess-with suspension setup sorted. And as somebody who's never been particularly bothered with messing around constantly with suspension settings, it's quite nice to have a bike that you can just jump on. You've got what you've got, but it seems to work no matter where you ride it. And there's a lot more to like about this bike, not just the legendary build quality that you always get from Hondas, but all of the controls just do what they should do and do it slickly. The clutch is nice and light. The cable actuated throttle is nice and smooth, and the fueling is really nicely sorted as well. No snatchiness at low speeds. Stopping duties are taken care of with twin rotors on the front and Nissin calipers and a Nissin caliper at the back. They work perfectly, nice progressive with a good bite. They pulled the bike up very quickly and efficiently, and the ABS is not at all intrusive. Whilst I'm on the subject of electronics, let's talk about traction control, because that again is simplicity itself. There are no rider modes to worry about selecting. It's simply traction control on or traction control off. And again, I didn't find the traction control to be intrusive. If it wasn't for the light flickering on the dash, I wouldn't have known it was doing anything. As you can see, I tested the bike on pretty much every surface other than dirt that I could find, and the Metzeler Road Tech tyres lapped it up. On dry tarmac, they stuck like the face of a 5-year-old boy to a Ferrari dealership window, and to be honest, they're much the same in the wet. When I picked the bike up, it absolutely tipped it down on the way home, and I had no issues with confidence from the tyre. I think these Road Techs are a perfect choice for this bike. This particular bike was fitted with a quick shifter, which is an optional extra, and I have to say it performed really well. The odd occasion I fluffed it was generally when I was shifting down the box aggressively coming into a corner, and that's probably more down to rider error than the shifter itself. What appeals to me about this bike over its sibling CBR650 is the comfort. It surprised me, to be honest. I had about a 2-hour ride back home from when I picked it up, and I had no problems with it at all. The seat is very supportive, and although it feels initially quite firm, actually is a very comfortable place to park your posterior. The high wide bars are very comfortable, give you really good control, lots of leverage, and the pegs and controls are not too high and not too far back, so you do get a slightly sporty canted forward riding position, but it doesn't put any pressure on your wrists, and I think it's a bike you could ride all day and not have too many problems. Another thing I think the engineers at Honda got spot on was that exhaust note. The low underslung silencer emits a beautiful sound, and it does so without being obnoxious. It's just the right mix. So we've established that the CB650R is good to look at, it's comfortable, it's quick, it handles well. Are there any parts of it that I'm not so keen on? Well, there are a couple, and to be honest, I've really had to nitpick to do these. First up is the LCD digital display. Now, whilst it shows everything on there that you would need, during daytime it's just a little bit too dim, and I found it a little bit difficult to read. It's a different scenario at night, and actually it becomes a really useful clock, but during the day not quite so much. And the other little niggle that I have, you may be able to see in this shot here, the bike does have running lights on, and although we've seen daytime running lights on the headlights for many other bikes, Honda have gone down the route of having both front indicators illuminated. Obviously, when in use, the indicators do flash normally as you would expect, but I just don't think people, certainly in the UK, are used to seeing those amber running lights, and my fear is that at a quick glance they could easily be misconstrued for an indicator, leading to people potentially pulling out in front of you. Now, that may not be the case, and I may be being too cautious, but I certainly would like the option to turn those running lights off, but there's no option to do that from the bike's controls. So I think it's safe to say that with just those two minor niggles, I was impressed with this bike, and I really did not want to give it back. I would definitely have this bike in my garage. I think it's great when you want to go out and have a scratch around and be a bit of a hooligan. If you're pootling around town or just on a nice gentle run out, it's nice and docile. I also think there's a great opportunity for some simple modification and customization. Just sticking a tail tidy and getting rid of that long license plate holder would be a big improvement. There's an accessory pillion seat cover which will give you that nice single seat hump look. Just those two options would really change up the look of the bike, but if you really wanted to get stuck into it, there's a whole world of possibilities. So if you need any more convincing, the only thing I have to mention is the price. The CB650R can be yours in the UK on the road for $6,999. Given how well the bike performs and how well it's put together, surely this makes it one of the bargain bikes of 2019. I hope you've enjoyed the review, and until next time, thanks for watching, take care, ride safe, and I'll see you soon. Bye.